Hello, I'm Alexia Anastasio, and I'm here with,
Isabelle Rizo.
and we're having a blab. We're having a conversation.
Yes. And I found out about Alexia through Seth Himes, who did a blab, I think it was last week with
Yep.
Alexia.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did one yesterday and one last week.
Yep. Yep. And it was all about filmmaking. So, yes, storytelling and filmmaking, and it just all works out.
It does just all work out. Isn't that amazing?
I know. It's like it's easier. We make it so complicated, and then it actually works.
Right? You're like, wait a minute.
Mhm.
Oh, this is happening for me, and it's all in place.
Yes. Yes. Mhm.
I'm 10 steps ahead of myself.
That's how it is. It's just like when you allow things to unfold, and things unfold, and then you're like, I was stressing out about this. What?
Yeah, yeah. So hence our topic today, how to create your own story for success.
Yes. Um, so I could dive right into that. And I just got off a call with a really good friend of mine, and we were just talking about this. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. I'm just jumping on a blab with it. So, creating your own story for success, I think, especially for us millennials, because I mainly work with millennials, and I mean, I work with established businesses and that too. But there's a story, and the world's all made up of stories. If you go in one country, you'll have one story. If you go in another country, you'll have one story about what success really is. And it's so funny because we fall into the trap of what success is defined by one person, one society, one group, one anything. Because we're social creatures and we want to be accepted and loved and in community, which makes complete sense. However, a lot of people are suffering from a story that they've bought, that they've seen, like, you have to be a millionaire to be successful. You have to have 3 yachts, and you have to travel around the world, and you have to be married and have 4 kids and blah, 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 and a house with a picket fence. All these stories that is the height of success. And for many, that is the height of success. And that is wonderful for them. Like, I only wish happiness on everyone. But for others, that might not be success. For others, I just got back from a digital nomad conference in Berlin where success was defined as working from your laptop anywhere around the world so that you can have the freedom to travel and prioritize success. Like, they put the priority on travel, and that was their definition of success. And I'm like, that's an awesome story for success. For others, it's like, I want to just create art, and I am in my element making art, doing film, painting, like putting the priority and my story on, like, I want to have time every day to paint. Like, and that is success for them. You know, like, they're living in an apartment, and they have everything that they need, but all they're doing is painting, and they decided that that's their story of success. But how do we get to that point where we can drop those stories? That's a lot of other stuff going on. Yeah. But I'm wondering, in the comments, in the blab, what defines success for you? Because a lot of people, I don't think they were even given the opportunity to ask themselves, like, what is it that I want? Not defined by what outside standards of success mean, but like, what makes me happy? What would light me up and make me happy as a human being on this planet? You know, like, is it exploring? Is it creating? Is it problem solving? Is it researching? Is it organizing? You know, asking yourself what you like to do, I think, is something that got forgotten along the way because we get caught up in all these stories. Like, when you're little, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's like, I don't know. I think that's the wrong question to ask. Not what do you want to be when you grow up, but like, what do you like to do? What makes you happy?
I got a comment.
You know, it's like, when you're happy, and I don't mean happiness and just like, oh, I'm happy all the time, because that's not the reality of things. There's happy and there's sad, there's angry and there's mad. And it's like, when you start doing, you lose track of time. You get into this flow state. You're like, I could do this for the rest of my life. Like, I'm just sitting here and reading. I could read books for the rest of my life. Like, ask yourself that, and that could be the foundation for writing your own story for success. And then committing to, committing to that story, because you are the writer of that story, nobody else. You're personally responsible for the story you're creating, and then just commit to it and then go do it.
Exactly. So Raina says, choose my own adventure like the books. I want to pick my own ending.
Yes. I love those choose my own adventure books.
Me too. I did too. And it's interesting how, like, very early on we got these books, and it was just like, yeah, we felt like we got a choice, and it was different each time each decision we made. Basically, it was a different book. And yes. I would always go back and be like, well, what if I chose this?
Yes, and there's a really great movie, Mr. Nobody. If you've seen that movie, I definitely recommend it, because it shows you it shows his life, mm-hmm. and all of the choices he could have made to turn his life into a whole, like, a million different things, because we have infinite possibilities of what our life can be, yeah. And you're consciously choosing every moment what your life is. And I mean, there are all these different elements and things going on in life. You can't control everything, but you can control, what you're thinking. You can control the actions that you take, the words that come out of your mouth, and when you take personal responsibility for, like, I am the manifester of my own life, my own happiness, then other people notice that. And then people are like, what's the secret with this person? Like, why are they all the time, like, doing their thing? Or how come they're successful? How come they're doing this? And it's like, because they defined success for themselves. They just followed their curiosity. They followed what they love to do. And you'll, in any interview, you listen to somebody that we deem successful in public eye. And right, that's like the epitome of success. You're in the public eye, yeah. And you're making money, and you're, they all say that they just followed their curiosity. They did what they loved to do, and then they never worked a day in their life because they did what they loved to do. And this doesn't negate the fact that, like, once you sign up for something, it's all sunshine and daisies and happiness.
Right.
It's like how Elizabeth Gilbert said in Big Magic. It's like, you signed up for this, you're going to eat the shit sandwiches that come with it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I signed up for this, and how much do you want it? When the first shit sandwich comes, are you going to be like, oh my God, no? Or are you going to be like, well, I signed up for this. I'm personally responsible for this story, so I'm going to eat it. And you go on and you eat another one and another one. And you manifest all this other stuff around you. So when people say follow your passion, I mean that in the best way possible. But other people are kind of ticked off by that, by, like, follow your passion. It's like, don't just follow your passion, because that's not practical on this. And it's like, it is practical from the root, from the inside. When you're talking about internal motivation, let that motivate you, that even in the darkest of times, when you are in the shit sandwich moment, you're like, I'm moving forward anyway, because that's my passion. That's my fuel right now. And if you're out of fuel, you're just kind of floating through expectations that other people have made for you, and all of that. So,
yeah. And also, I've in my past, I said something. I had just read "Don't Sweat the Small Stuff," and I said that to a friend who had, a big, like, flood in her basement, and that was a real big thing. Like, she thought that, oh, everything is unicorns and rainbows for me.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And I like that don't sweat the small stuff. And I posted something yesterday on my Facebook was, you are so significant, but so insignificant at the same time. This, in the grand scheme of things, means nothing, but it also means everything.
Right. Because we make such a big deal out of, like, sometimes it's big things, and they can, change our lives and change who we decide to be friends with, but other times it's just like, oh, no big deal. I forgot to record my first interview on Blab. You know, it was my first one. I'm doing another one. We're doing one right now. And I refreshed, I pressed record, even though there were people watching.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You can consciously choose every moment, like the first time you don't record a Blab, or I forgot to send something off on time or something. I can consciously choose, am I going to berate myself and be negative about it? Or am I just going to own up to it and tell the person, hey, I'm late, or hey, I'm like this. I'm sorry about that. That wasn't my intention. But, we're human. And when you give yourself permission to fail and make mistakes, and yeah, sometimes it's going to be a huge mistake with not huge, but it will have huge consequences and it'll affect a lot of different people. You have to be willing, I signed up for this. I have to take responsibility now. And the world would be so much better if we did that. But, fear and emotion and cultural baggage and societal baggage gets in the way,
Yeah, right. Because society there's so much out there. And it's not just, it's funny how you're like, oh, well, society said this, so you're going to follow it, right? We were like, well, it's not just an advertisement on TV, because I don't watch TV, hardly ever anymore. I like a show, I'll just marathon it. I just don't have time for that. But it's also in the comments that your friends say, and they watch TV all the time, and then an article on BuzzFeed, and then just from all different directions, and you're like, well, I respect what this person says, or even our parents,
Yep.
You can't get away from that, unless you really disconnect everything and live on an island. And even if you live on an island, you still have.
That's the thing. It's because human beings like to think in dichotomies. They're like, it's either good or it's bad, or it's left or it's right, or it's this or it's that, which is totally fine. And that's the reality that we're living in as human beings. So sometimes it does take somebody to disconnect all the way to realize, if they were all the time surrounded by noise and ideas and this, it's like, oh, okay, I just need to balance that out and go to the other extreme. What would be nice is just to stay here. But, it's, as human beings, we kind of go with the flow a little bit and that. But when you know your story and you kind of look at things objectively, then you realize that you have an inner power to be like, oh, I can choose to believe this, or I can choose to believe this. Because ideas are all just, again, dichotomies. It's me against them. It's me I'm right, you're wrong. But when you stay in the middle, you're kind of just like, okay, I'm going to allow that. That's your opinion. Thank you. Have you analyzed that possibly you might be wrong? Because our egos like to get in the way and be like, no, I'm right and you're wrong, because it gives us power and it gives us authority and it gives us a sense of self. But when you get your sense of self from just ideas and from your outside surroundings, and, then you're giving your outside power over yourself. And it's like, what about personal power?
Right. Yeah. I had an argument over something really silly. It was about whether celebrities should stop and autograph for people or not. And literally, the end my friend had to be like, well, we have to agree to disagree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, and it's nothing is wrong with having arguments
on opinions and of that society gave both of us, what we decided.
Exactly. It's totally fine to have those, but then having in the back of your mind all the time the conscious realization that this doesn't really matter, but I'm having fun right now arguing.
Exactly. Yeah, because it doesn't matter. It's just opinions, that doesn't change it'll change what, maybe we do as ourselves, but we both were not the celebrity, that we were talking about. We have no control about what he did.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, there are so many angles that you could look at it from for that celebrity is it's great for PR and people see you as more human when you do this. And it's like, how do you want to be perceived by everyone? Once you know how you want to be perceived by everyone, because you kind of know a little bit about human brains and how they work, you're like, oh, well, I know how I want to be perceived, and I'm going to act like this. It's like, how much do you want to play the game that society played versus forging your own path? Or do you play the game that society played, like the rules that they played? And then once you conquer that game, then you can make up your own game, and then you can like change paradigms and change the way people think. You know, it's kind of compromising a little bit, but not all the way, because you're conscious about the game.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And we do get to decide. But it was interesting because she actually, the person didn't autograph, and she thought, oh, well, he's human too. That she thought it was that way. And I'm like, oh. So, but in both instances, neither one of us are right, because neither one of us is that person who just made it.
But at the same time, you're both right at the same time, as it doesn't matter, and it's like it. You're both right. You're both right and wrong at the same time. That's why I'm like, they're both a valid realities, and you're pointing out both valid, because he is human too, and it's like he's doing this because he has a certain level of power and prestige because he's played this game, and people that haven't played that game honor that, and they're like, oh, I would love to have an autograph because he's amazing that he's played this game and he ate the shit sandwiches that I haven't been willing to eat. So I'd love to have his autograph. Like, that's awesome. But, you know, we put stories. That's, again, a story that we love. Like, oh, I have his autograph. It's almost like a religious thing. It's like it carries a magical energy now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that happened a lot with my subject of my documentary, Bill Plimpton. So I did a documentary on an Oscar-nominated animator. And when he would do signings, they'd always be like somebody who would just stick around. They'd get their autograph, they'd buy their piece of art, and they'd just stick around. Just so they get the energy, that motivation, so they can bring it home, like they can bottle it and bring it home and then, you know, put it into their work. And I'm like, that's inside of you. But I didn't say anything. But
no, it's true. It's like once you realize that it doesn't really matter, and you can make it matter whatever you want, then other people that are still realize they're still stuck in what other people told them to do are like, well, I need to stay by this person so that I can get some of their energy or absorb some of their way of thinking, because I'm not worthy of the place that they're at. Like, I'm not willing to go the extra mile that this person has gone at. And really, it isn't an extra mile. It isn't, it's just them deciding, like, I'm going to be an Oscar award-winning, director. And it's not even like I'm declaring I'm going to win an Oscar. It's just like, I'm doing what I want to do. And if other people want to acknowledge me, cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because he was not. It's funny because with an Oscar, that could be a goal, but it's not a goal that you can control.
Mm-hmm. It's a byproduct of what you decide.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like, for me, when I made the distinction, like, okay, I'm doing travel blogging and consulting and blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, I played this game. Now I want to play this game. Now I want to change to this. And I want to change to this. And when I let go of the expectation of, I want to be on 5 podcasts this month. I want to get $5,000 this month. When I let that go and I was just allowing myself to have fun, and I mean, I still have a system in place that I know to play this game as an entrepreneur, you need to have a couple systems, and then you create space for you to just be creative to sustain you. Then you're like, well, I'm just going to have fun. And then the money started coming in, and then opportunities started coming in, labs, podcasts. I'm like, oh, cool. But I didn't make a big deal out of it. When I made a big deal out of something and put attachment to it, then it would be like me trying to force it, and it didn't work.
Totally. That always happens. Whenever I put a goal on like how many Facebook likes that I want to have, I'm like, oh, I'm doing so great. Well, if I just post more, I'll get a couple more likes, and I'll get like 4 more likes, and I'll be over that little, threshold. And then suddenly I'll have like 4 less likes. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And it's like every time I forced something, it didn't end up right. It didn't.
Right.
And of course I had to take the because I declared that that's what I signed up for, and I'm like I'm committed to this 100%. Then I'm gonna deal with the shit sandwiches that come with it because I'm forcing it. I'm like I need these many likes. I need this many or this much money this month. But when I just allowed it,
Right.
opportunities would come, things would be easy. I'm like, it can't be this easy. That was the story I had in my head. That was the reality the story that I had was like, it can't be this easy. And when I dropped that story, then it became easy. And I'm like, why am I making this so hard? But it's interesting. And the only thing I want from people is because I think here in the U.S., because I've lived in other parts of the world, but even in other parts of the world, sometimes even more there than here. Nobody ever asks us or allows us to explore our curiosity, to explore what lights us up. Because when you do what lights you up, then you're a light for others. You can inspire others in that way. And again, it's a byproduct. It's not you trying. It's just you doing you.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people, especially parents or friends, they try to give you advice, like you have to have a guaranteed income, guaranteed, and that means something normal, in a box that they've heard of, but they're just they're using the resources that they were given.
It's the stories that they had, and they only want the best for you.
Yeah.
They love you, and they care about you, and then they're telling you, I want you to make good money, and I want you to have this job because I want you to have the security
Yeah.
I might have not had or experienced, and I only want the best for you. But in a way that's more toxic because, yes, it's coming from love, but at the same time, you are becoming what they weren't and accomplishing their dream, and then you're safe and successful but unhappy. That's why I tell people, what do you want? What is your story? And then I help them build, the foundation for it. Because you can get money from doing what you want to do. And there's a foundation and a system that you can build. Because if you're playing the money game, then you got to play with the money rules that are here. So you build a structure for that, and then you do you, and then the money just comes. You just got to have a structure.
And I feel like structure and just also being okay to take that risk and go out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wonder what if I could bottle like getting rid of fear for a few seconds for people. That would be or even just to have them see a glimpse of the future, of like the future that they want, and then the feeling of what that feels like for them, and bottle that and then give it to them and be like, I can get you there.
Right.
Oh my God. Done so bam.
It's so exciting. That's why I think totally, like we always have times, I love doing these interviews because we're like, oh yeah, these are the times where we're talking about, and it's like, yep, world changing, hashtag world changing. But that emotional fulfillment that we get when we help somebody with their goal.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And my friends, usually I'll see this with a couple of bloggers that I know and good friends, and they'll be on Periscope and be like, well, I'm just going to do what I want to do. And people are like, you're coming from privilege, and you don't know the struggle that is life, and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, do you want me to tell you my struggle? Is this a contest of the struggle? Because I can tell you all my struggles, but what I'm doing right now is just telling you have permission to be whatever you want to be. And you can choose to keep staying in the struggle. And this is the thing. I'm not saying there's struggle. There absolutely a struggle in life. There is people that they can't afford food for their table and all of this. However, when they, and I can say this because I've been in those kinds of situations, when you consciously say, like, okay, I'm playing the money game now so that I can have food on the table, then you will have food on the table. And it's going to be, every action is a conscious action to get yourself out of that environment, if that is what you want, of course. However, I see people all the time, and I was one of them. I'm like, suffering is so much easier than having what I want. I have a fear of success. Like, I can't have what they're having. It's like, no, I'm not worthy enough. I can come up with a million excuses for why I'm not where I want to be. But actions, I don't know about actions. That's a whole different language you're talking about, you know? So when I tell people, just do you, then they're like, what about this? And what about this? I'm like, okay, keep making excuses. I'm not going to listen to your excuses. You didn't pay me to listen to your excuses. I'm here to just get you where you need to be. But when you're done with your excuses, then talk to me, and then we'll get you
right. Yeah, yeah. But
and it's not like, because excuses are natural and normal, and it's a natural reaction to have. However, you realize that you are the only person that is in your own way, really. And yes, there's surrounding circumstances and all of this, but however, you always have the conscious decision to be like, I'm going to get out of this situation, and I'm going to take deliberate small actions every day to get out of this. Does any of this make sense? Or
it makes perfect sense. Because I see it. I see it. You see it in your life. You're like, I want to get this done by this date, and I didn't. Why is that? Well, you were doing other actions. I was still doing actions, but not the actions that to get that thing done. So yes, that's why that's not done, exactly. And this is.
Yes, exactly. It's like, what story are you? What story are you claiming that you are going to focus on this story to take that action to realize that story? Or are you getting distracted by somebody else's story here and somebody else's story here? This is like, I did a Periscope yesterday on shiny object syndrome for entrepreneurs. Like, how do you get over shiny objects? It goes back to getting clear on your story. Like for me, for example, every morning I have the ritual where I write down, I have a couple questions. Like I put them in my ebook, like 20 questions that are like, okay, I want to live here. I want to eat this kind of food. These are the kinds of clothes I'm using. This is how I feel. This is my schedule for a typical day. And I read that every single morning and here in my little journal every morning. And then that just reminds me and keeps me aware of like, oh, why am I doing what I'm doing again? Oh yeah, it's a long-term game. Yeah, because I chose that, and I'm going to take disciplined, inspired action towards that. And I'm going to ask for help when I need it, and I'm going to get systems in place for a long-term game. Because I was at the point where I got amazing opportunities. I got opportunities to, fly across the world and help with film stuff. And if it was 6 months ago or a year ago, I would have been like, oh my God, like peeing my pants, like, oh my God, the opportunity. But I had the strength and the discipline to just be like, you know what? This is my long-term game. And this is taking me on a different course. That definitely was my course a couple years ago where I wanted to be in film and work and do filmmaking things. And that would have definitely projected me in this way. And the universe kind of throws you curveballs where it's like, but I thought you wanted this. And you're like, no. I was like, are you sure? Like, look at this tempting, really good, And you're like, nope, I'm just going to stay here. I read my plan in the morning. That's what I'm sticking to. It's me promising that to myself. It's like, how much do I respect myself that I promise and honor my word? That's why it all starts with inside. When people say, I'm going to change the world on the outside, I'm like, What about your inner world?
Yeah, totally, totally. I've been getting a lot more clarity on that too, and just making big decisions where, yeah, my 11-year-old self would be like, yeah, what the f? Like, why aren't you starring in your own movie? Like, and I had to make a big
Yeah.
decision just this last couple of days. You're like, wait a minute, this next one, I don't need to star in it. I can still be in it, but I don't need to be the star. And that was a big thing because I realized that was some of the resistance to hold me back from finishing my script.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's all these subconscious things that we're not aware of, like, oh, that's why I'm not doing the thing that could help me move me through the thing because, yeah. Oh, okay. That's okay.
And we have a comment. Yeah.
Oh, we do. Oh, there's that saying, do what scares you the most. Being you in this world is very scary. Take up the challenges, embrace the failures, know your self-worth. It's incredible being you. Yes. Yes. Ooh, there's a story. I have a story. Somebody has a story. I like this. Yes, and you know what? I love Ms. Bumi Benjamin that you said that. Being you in this world is very scary. It's very scary because when you sign up to be yourself, there are going to be people that will have reactions and say things and maybe even do things that could put you in harm verbally, could put you in harm politically, and in all these other systems that have been established. So it's like consciously pick and choose your battles about who you want to be and the story that you want to have. And unfortunately, I see it as like if you want to be yourself in the world, you have to play the game in such a way that if you want to impact the most people, you've got to play the system that's already been set up kind of games and those kinds of rules so that people will respect you. Unless, of course, like I've walked into a boardroom with people all in their suits and like the long table, like think the stereotypical movie scene, and I'm there and I could have dressed up like them and I could have sat, and fit the mold in that scene because that would have been easier and they would have respected me more. But I came in with skinny jeans and a sweater. I came in with like my punk boots and I sat down at the table, but I knew my worth and what value I could bring them. And I knew that here and I knew that here. And that when you know that inside here, that comes off in your whole body. They were listening to me as if I was the CEO of their company, where inside how I was feeling was like, oh my God, these people like with their long table and like their suits. But do you think I showed that? No. Yeah. I played the game. I played and it's like, and then when I brought them value and I believed in myself and I just stood in my power and knew what I could do, they were like, oh my God, can you come work here? And I'm like, that wasn't part of my big plan. I was like, no, I'm not going to work here. This is an amazing opportunity, but no. And people are like, but no, please. And I'm like, nope. But you know how much strength it took for me to be like, oh my God, this would be cool. And then I'd be like, nope.
Yeah. And it's so funny how when you freaking just know and you're like, that's what would make me happy. Continuing to do, or even focusing on my script or whatever it is, you're like, well, and you realize actually it doesn't even take that much money to do that.
Yep. Oh, exactly. It's like I'm just gonna do it, and then have faith that the right opportunities will arise and that the right people will come into my life and things will, manifest. But having faith in yourself, even in other people, it's like, I think that's the scariest part. It's allowing yourself to have faith that it will work out, But it's every time that I've had faith and I've let go of worry that the most amazing things have happened. And I mean, it's not just having blind faith, because there's that, like, you know, where people will be like, just have faith in everything and the universe will figure itself out. And yes, however, you're playing in a certain reality where people think in this way and their system set up and blah, blah, blah. I mean, Martin Luther King couldn't change the way things were. Like, he was being himself. However, he was dealing with a system that wasn't supporting himself and people of color and people of different backgrounds. And he's like, well, here's the vision, and I'm going to use this game, this system, the way it is, to change things or to transform things or to bring in a new conversation, you know? So it's like, when you set up for the game, you set up for life and you choose something, then you're like, all right, well, I'm going to go all the way through it. And, you know, even I was watching actually on the plane ride over from Europe last week, Harvey Milk. Awesome. Yeah. And I was like, he was just being himself. He was doing what he loved to do. He was just like, I would have loved to hang out with him. Like, he just sounded like a cool guy. He was genuine, authentic. His story, he knew his story and he was living it. And you're going to get people, how he ended up, you know, again, that guy at the end, you know, shot him at the end. And it's kind of like, are you willing to when you commit to this story, you are aware fully of the consequences and the reality that you're playing this in? And if you are willing to take that and even be willing to die for this story, then you know, that's the bravery, I think. It's like knowing that and still doing it. That's the bravery.
Yeah. And I just listened to a book about the personal journeys. I'm having a blank because I'm trying to think of it right now.
The hero's journey?
No, not the hero's journey. It was oh gosh. Even a personal legend. No. Alchemist.
Oh, Living Legend? Oh, The Alchemist.
Yeah.
Oh, with Paulo Coelho. Yes. That's a good one. That's another really good. That's a good book.
Yeah. And but yeah, whenever he's in a situation where he's about to die, he's like, well, you know, either, you know, he was willing to stand up to fear because he would have died in his personal legend. And the same thing with the guy on who did the big stunt with the walked across the World Trade Center on the wires.
The Man on Wire. That is a fantastic documentary. That man.
Just that story of how much pressure and his life, you know, leading up to that point, and yet, like, he does it. He lives it out.
Mm-hmm.
And if he fell, he would have fallen, you know, during his personal legend.
He was
feeling that.
Exactly. That was his personal legend, and he decided to do that. And then I loved at the end of the documentary, he was just like, okay, I'm done. Like, with such a detachment. I'm like, that's so French. I was like, it's with such detachment. It's like, you're going to go 100% for it, but still stay detached.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And I think that's where that power comes from, where, you know, I posted this yesterday as a meme. You are made of stardust, but the rent was due on the 6th and it's the 7th. It's like knowing both of those realities, because they're both real, and, you know, coming from that place in the middle, like in that gray area that we don't like to be in, like, this can actually be a place of power. Like, I can manifest whatever I want. What?
Yeah. And it's so a couple years ago, one of somebody who I worked with on a film actually did pass away he was going for diving, like the world record dive, you know, yeah, of like free diving.
Whoa. Oh,
Yeah.
yes, 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 yes.
And yeah, he was like my age. And I was just like, I just, I just had so much, even though I hadn't talked to him in a long time. I'll post his Wikipedia here.
Yeah.
I feel like I just had such respect for him because he died doing something he loved. Yeah, he lived, you know, dying at 30, you know, he was like, I think it was 32. Yeah, 32. But it gave him so much joy, you know. So when you have that much serotonin and all of that stuff, because you're living, you're
in flow.
yeah,
You're in your
you're really
flow state.
living. You're doing something finally that you know you were meant to do, and it's just it is an empowering way to go when you really think about it.
You're doing what you love to do, and I mean, I love that you shared his Wikipedia. There are so many ways to play with this. Like it's totally like what you want to make of it. So if he, for example, wanted to leave a legacy, like if you consciously choose you want to leave a legacy, then you're going to play the game as long as you can and stay alive as much as you can to do amazing stuff, but still kind of like, okay, if leaving a legacy is my number one, then I'm going to do this. If I want to just do whatever I want and have fun and like go 100%, and even if it's a short amount of time you're on this planet, you're doing that. That's what you're doing. You've consciously decided that that's what you want to do. And then like, so leaving a legacy, just enjoying yourself. I don't know what else you want to do. Like change mindsets, like Martin Luther King. You know, it's what you. I think knowing that you can come from a place of like, I can consciously choose what I can do in my life and like do it, and then sign up for it and commit to it. That's I think an empowering way to live your life, because then you're conscious about what you're doing.
I agree. And then, you know, because I had another friend who passed away this year. He was 62, but still he didn't die with any regrets. And that I feel like is, you know, there was, you know, the memorial was like packed and people loved him. And it was just such a sweet, you know, celebration, you know, grieving, of course, you know. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, I feel like also like you have these spiritual, it turns into a spiritual relationship with these people who did what they loved.
Yes. Mm-hmm. It's definitely a spiritual and like inspiration is in spirit.
Yeah.
It's like they are inspired and they're coming from spirit and they are using their spirit to guide them. And it's not just they're using their spirit in their physical body, but their spirit is guiding them. It's not just their physical body. It's not just their needs. It's not just their mental. It's like spirit is number one, and then everything else comes second, because they know, they've realized that nothing really matters in a way, but at the same time it does. And they've consciously decided to be like, oh, well, then I can make it up as I go along. You know, and play that game. So I see it as when I'm inspired, again, like that guy Man on Wire, or your friend that did diving, or, you know, I am so happy when other people are doing what their strengths are. Like, I love storytelling. I have a friend that loves organizing. I have another friend that loves strategizing, and they are in their flow state when they are doing that. And you can see them light up, and you can see them like wisdom and inspiration and everything is just pouring out of them when they're in that zone. And that just makes me so happy. And I just want more people to be coming from that space. Like if I could do that with the stories I tell, that's the kind of legacy I want to leave behind.
We left the link for my other friend, Eric Keaton, who passed away this May. An article in the LA Times talking about how many lives he touched while he was living. And if that's what you can leave behind, like the people you touched, right? And inspired and community that you created.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's you can choose, and when you know that you can choose consciously, then that I think is the most empowering thing. It's like, how do you get people to realize that? I think is the best question. And I'm curious what you have to say, because I deal with this a lot. Like it's definitely a process.
Yeah, I feel like there's certain time at certain times when people are ready. Not everybody is ready. And you can't choose when they're ready. They need to come to that on their own. And so I won't work with somebody if they're not ready and they're not, to receive and to appreciate what the magic that I'm going to bring them through. So, but on the other hand, like other people come to me and they are ready, and they'll just need a little bit pushing or a little bit direction, and sometimes they'll need a little bit even hand holding. But they asked for it and they appreciated it, and then they told others that it was awesome, and they, and especially because I teach about crowdfunding, then they got their goal, so that they're happy to like yell my name to the rooftops. Well, like raise $25,000 so it's, and that was somebody I'm talking about is just like, he wasn't ready. He had the network, he had, things in place, but he mentally needed a little bit more time.
Yep. And I feel like that's when entrepreneurs come to me and they're like, well, I have my ultimate life plan kind of clear, and they ask for help and everything, but then what happens is sometimes they don't do the work, and it comes from all inside. Like they're not ready yet. And that is okay. And that is totally okay. And that's why I tell people, write down your ideal client as your number one thing, because then this person is ready, this person is not ready, this person just needs a little bit of nudging or a little bit of hand holding. And what are you willing to do? Like, what's the system you have in place that is your qualifier to work with others? Because you don't want to drag people kicking and screaming to success. That's just painful for everyone.
Oh yeah. And I've had some of that where it took so many weeks to, like, I felt like I was like the CEO of our company, and I'm like, I had to be like, this is your responsibility, and you need to make the phone calls to the people in your phone book that are going to help you, because I know they will. You have lots of, and finally she did. And then finally, like, I felt like, okay, I empowered her. It took me weeks, but at least I empowered her to do that.
Yep. See, you have more patience than me. I'm so bad. I'm just like, okay, do it. All right, do it. And then you know what I ended up doing for people that weren't ready, because I was one of those people that was just DIY, do everything for everyone. And I know that my strength is just like, okay, this is the thing you're going to do. These are the steps you're going to do it. Okay, do it. Here's $1 million. Boom. But people are like, no, that's impossible. And I'm like, okay, you're going to go do the energy work with this person. And then you're going to take this class from this person. And then you're going to work with this person. And then you can work with me. Because I am not tolerating because sometimes I'm like that with myself though too.
It's interesting. Because I like that idea of the energy work because it's so important.
Fix the inner. I was the last person. I was the resistor to the energy work, and I did Reiki on people, but I was still resisting getting energy work from other people. I was like, I don't need this. I know what success looks like for me. And that got me to where I was. However, I realized I wasn't in balance. It was always like I had all these stories that I had that could have, instead of 7 years for me to get to where I am, it could have taken 1 or even a month. If I did the inner work to where I wanted to be, instead of a struggle and like the belief that I had to please everyone, and then I had to, accommodate every single person and please everyone and always say yes and sacrifice for the greater good. Like those were all stories that I had in my head. And of course, those stories become your reality. And I'm like, oh my God, that was a story I had. And look at what I did that manifested. I made this conscious choice, but it was unconscious because I was unaware of it. And I'm like, oh my God. So that's why I tell people, I'm like, go do the inner work, then we'll talk.
Yeah, I want to open it up. Also, feel free, everybody, to ask questions either in the chat or we do have an open seat if somebody wants to jump in.
Yes, I'd love somebody on the open seat, but I like comments too. And I'm curious to see what projects people are working on or what stories. Like, I didn't even know that I could create my own story and that I could manifest my own story and do whatever I want. Like, I didn't know, like I knew it here, but I didn't know it like outside. How do I get from here, like an idea, to it's coming out of my mouth and there it is?
Yeah.
I don't know if there's questions or people are maybe just mulling things over. Hey, Eleanor. Eleanor's on my team. Eleanor is the best health coach ever, and she taught me about self-care.
Self-care is so important.
Yes, it's super important. But again, I was with the story that I have to suffer to be successful. And I'm like, self-care? What? And I think it was the last couple months that I actually sat down and I didn't work. Like, I'd be working in front of the computer all the time. And then I was just like, nope. I'm just going to sit and read a book and make a cup of tea and relax and chill out.
Imagine that.
Right? I'm like, this is such a far-fetched idea. But now I'm at the point where I'm like, oh, you can do that and you don't get punished. There's a consequence for, right?
Yeah, it's so funny. I was at a party a couple days ago, and a couple of little kids were there, and I pulled up my skirt. I was wearing sneakers, and the little girl says, "Wait a minute! I thought you're not allowed to wear tennis shoes with the skirt." I'm like, "Whose rule is that?" Oh.
And you just blew her mind. Like, you just changed her paradigm.
At like, yeah, I think she was like 8 or something like that.
You're just like, she's going to remember that when she says, like, this girl told me that it doesn't have to be this way, and I can consciously choose to make my own rules. What? Ooh, a couple of people are heading out. Loveless would love to chat with you, but I have my own blab to hop on in a few. Enjoy your blab. I'd love to actually like connect with all of you because there's quite a few of you on the blab.
Them and then follow them.
Ooh,
I'm already following you, Monica. Awesome. Okay. So we're gonna wrap up. Is there anything you want to? How do people find you?
Yeah, so my internet home is thebellav.com. It's TheBellavie.com. I'll put it here in the chat. Bellav.com. And I have a Facebook group with a lot of awesome, inspirational, entrepreneurial ladies from around the world. And if you just search Beautiful Bella Vistas, or you go on my website, you can get your little invite to join the conversation. And we have webinar tea parties, and we talk about business stuff, and then we talk about self-care, and we talk about technology, women scientists, like all the different ways women express themselves in business. And there are supportive guys in there as well. So they're all our allies.
They are. Yeah. Yeah, we could probably have a whole nother discussion about feminine and masculine energy.
Yes, yes, because we need both. We need both of them, and it's always been like this or that or that. But when they come together, it's like stuff gets done in a harmonious way. Imagine that.
My mother's Persian, so I get a lot of masculine energy.
Yeah, I got you.
And at one point, I'm like, wait a minute, I think I'm too much in my masculine. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, I want to be girly sometimes too, and just like, and you forget, and you're like, oh, but even.
I'm guilty. I will be like, I'll be the most masculine girl in the room and just tell people what to do and disregard their feelings because I like to get shit done. But at the same time, I'm like, I love to just allow things and just connect with my feelings and do this. But when you combine both of those energies together, because otherwise everyone would hate each other if it was masculine, and nothing would get done if it was all feminine. But it's like when you do and you feel.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think also hanging out with more women too, like that helps for me to be in touch with more of my feminine.
That definitely does. Totally.
Yeah. So I'm going to put my link there too. It's alexiaanesthesia.com. If anybody wants to check out my films. Big project coming up. Big launch next Monday. So, oh yeah, so everybody, if you can actually help by spreading the word by joining the Thunderclap, which is free, and that would be super helpful. Yay, we even have people joining at the. So we're gonna say goodbye on the record now, and maybe stay on for another 5 minutes for the people who just joined. How about that? All right. So